by reclaiming these parts of yourself and touching and awakening all of this, your senses and your sensuality, you are naturally more magnetic, more attractive, more turned on, more satisfied in life.
You are listening to Turn Your Soul On Radio. I am your host and visionary doctor, Dr. Brandy Victory, and my mission is to assist high-achieving women in closing the gap between feeling unfulfilled to living a life on fire. It is time, ladies, to champion our own lives and turn ourselves on. This is Living Victoriously, ladies. This is how you turn your soul on. Hello, beauties. And I am so curious, wouldn't you like to feel that more deeply? If you could just put your hand in your heart right now and say, I am beautiful. I am beautiful. I am beautiful. And just let that land. And then just imagine that you could turn that up 10,000-fold. You could actually embody that as truth for yourself. That is what you're going to learn about today. I am going to introduce you to a couple of amazing women who have helped me turn my own life on. And I'm just getting started with these ladies, and they're just bringing so much goodness to my life. So I'm happy to share them with you because I want so much goodness for your life too. And this is just the way to take yourself up a whole nother level. We're going to talk about things from reclaiming your feminine wholeness to sensuality for yourself versus your partner, you will hear me go through in a little emotional moment, excuse the tears. And we'll also talk about relationship as an eternal date, which is an awesome concept I haven't ever even considered, but definitely will bring that into my personal practice as much as possible now. Before we get going, I just want to thank our sponsors, Purium Superfoods. Purium is the sponsor of the 10-day transformation program that I'm going to be doing as a group project with a bunch of women who want to join in on this adventure. We're going to take 10 days where we're meeting virtually over the internet, doing video conferencing. You're going to go through sensuality exercises, guided meditations, daily tips and techniques for getting yourself through this transformation program for over the next 10 days. And all the women love it. All the women feel fabulous. The first thing that gets said to most people is, wow, your skin's looking so good. What are you doing? And then you're going to just be compelled to tell everyone because you're going to feel so fantastic. So it just goes right in alignment with what we're talking about here today. And that's up-leveling our feminine connection to ourself. So I am just absolutely thrilled to introduce you to Allie and Jen. I do want to let you know we are doing a microphone passing technique during this recording. So pardon the interruption or the slowness of the next person to talk if it seems a little off for you. That's what's happening. We're doing this on the fly, and that's how that unfolded. So anyway, I am so grateful to be able to share this with you, and I can't wait to hear your feedback on how this lands for you, and if you want to maybe join me in class sometime. All right, ladies, here we go. Hey, soul sisters. I am jumping out of my skin right now. Oh my gosh. You know, I have been waiting on this interview since the very beginning, and it has finally happened. I am here with Allie and Jen with Sensually Embodied Dance in Boulder, Colorado, and this is it is honestly, ladies, it's church and therapy all at the same time. Oh. That's just to get it straight, right? Yeah. So anyway, I'm so excited to be introducing you to these two wonderful women. And, this is the Ambition and Grace series. So this is really an opportunity for the women that I bring into this circle to have a moment to share their story so that you too can know that you can too. You can too. We're all the same. We all have struggles, and we choose to overcome them or we don't, and life goes on. And it's just my absolute pleasure to welcome both of you here because you are definitely bringing light to life around here. So, yeah, for sure. So, Jen, would you like to start and just introduce yourself?
Hi, this is such an honor, Brandy. Thank you so much. My name is Jennifer Bell, and I used to be living a life as a prosecutor in New York City. That was, I had grown up dancing and doing Pilates and being a very physically active person. And then in my 20s, I lost that going to law school and becoming a lawyer and practicing. And then I found my body going through a massive health crisis, which I know, Brandy, is this is why you're doing what you're doing for the health of women and for the world. So I found myself having panic attacks, being completely disconnected from my body, and I had no idea how to listen to my body's intuition or my body's voice. And when I started having these panic attacks, I realized I had to make a change because I felt like I was going to really at some point start to get sick or something was going to set in that was really scary. So I left my job and went on a massive personal growth school. I traveled the world. I studied with an abundance of teachers. And along the way, I came in contact with a woman named Kegley, who has founded S Factor, which the S stands for the shape and curves of a woman's body. And I dove in head first. I became a retreat junkie. I could not get enough of feminine connection and of connection with myself and my body because I hadn't ever really found female friends that I truly could be myself with. And also, I never felt what it was like to live and listen to my body. And that changed everything for me. And since then, I've become a teacher of S Factor and moved to Boulder, Colorado, had a baby, met my amazing, brilliant co-creator, who you'll hear from in a minute. And we started dancing together and just needed this for ourselves. And it since grew into Sensually Embodied Dance. But I cannot imagine not having this in my life. I always say it does not make my life easier, but it makes it richer. It makes it brighter, darker, vibrant, exciting. The array of colors I get to experience and the range of emotions I get to experience. That is what has changed everything for me and allowed me to listen to my body's voice on a regular basis. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I really love that. And yes, I feel you on that. The colors, and I'm like, isn't that making life better? But yes, the colors, like I remember the very first day I took this class, and for the whole week after that, every time I'd put on a pair of pants, I'm like, oh, this feels so good. Oh my gosh, right? It's like, oh my gosh, how do we help more and more women be able to get to a place where, number one, they feel safe enough to be in their body, and number two, to be open enough to allow it to happen for them. So thank you so much.
So moved by what Jen said right now. I'm just present how lucky I am to get to inhabit this world with you and you. Getting to witness people unfold in the ways that this movement invites. It's just been one of the greatest privileges of my life, I feel like. It's funny to do something that, like, in a way I feel so proud of, but it has this quality of humility that the other things I did before I found this never really had. It's almost like it picked us, and we are servants of this mission for women. Yeah. I never felt that way in the other epics of my life. So I came to this kind of some similarities to Jen. I had a big career in the beauty industry, and I was running a company, and I heard about this like pole dancing studio. And I used to be a gymnast, and I have always loved feeling sexy, doing things that feel sexy. So my husband actually found it, and he's like, well, this sounds like something you might like. And I tried it. And I would come from work and I would have this long commute because I was living in LA and everything's far there from each other. And I would get in this class and I would spend like the first half an hour kind of, it's dark, you're kind of with yourself. And I would have a lot of thoughts of, do I want to come back? Like I have so much to do. I'm going to have to get back on work. But by the time I would leave class, every single time, I felt clear. I felt clean. I felt quiet. I felt home in my body with other women. I felt held, and I just kept coming. and then I got addicted, and then I got obsessed, and then I moved to Boulder, and there is no S Factor studio here. So luckily, when I was going through moving, I hadn't yet decided if I was going to move. Someone told me, well, you have to meet Jen Bell because she's a teacher and she just moved to Colorado. And I was like, what? And my background's really in business. So I connected up with Jen and said, will you teach? Because she was a teacher. I'll do everything else. I'll find us a space. I'll tell people about it. I'll get the people there. Will you teach? It honestly, in this grace and ambition, mission that you have with these podcasts, I never thought to be a teacher of this. I was just a student. And then Jen got pregnant, and I had to step in. And it was this incredible experience of, yes, it's my time. I mean, I have to. I can't not. And there's that part of all of us that feels we're not ready, or we look at someone who's been doing it for a while and, okay, in the beginning, we're not going to be just that way because we're new. But it doesn't mean we're not ready. And the only way you really get ready is to start doing it. And so I'm so grateful in some ways that Jen was like, I have morning sickness. Can you be in the center of the room and however it unfolded. And then I went through teacher training and all of that. And I had been doing the movement devotedly, going to all the retreats, taking lots of private. So, I'd been doing it for 8 years. So, I had a ton of experience and that certainly enabled me to become a comfortable teacher. I think the kind of inspiration that this movement provides, it was so in the fiber of my being. And I just kind of feel like we channel our teachers' voices as well as the universal longings of the feminine to relax. Just little things like to take all the time you need. It's amazing how much someone else can give you permission to take your time, to slow down. All of us have been doing this movement now for a while, and I can feel both of you just dropped, even when I just said that. Somehow, in our own way, ourself, we don't always find these things. And so, for me, it was like, I really changed my whole life as I discovered more teachers in this feminine world, not just Sheila. I work with David Data and other teachers that have studied under those master teachers, Michaela Boehm, John Wineland, assist and teach in a lot of those programs. And this is such a universal desire of women. There's this beautiful awakening there was this traditional way of being female in the home, which, thank goodness, we evolved away from. It was a very limited choice set for women. And there was a lot of fear and dependency and limits on women for a long time. And then we got into this world where we could do anything we want, which of course is still true. And along the way, there's this sense that some of the native genius of the feminine has been set to the side, has been not valued in the same way, not rewarded in the same way. Women are not gathering in circles, in tribes, the way we used to. I know we're going to talk more about this. And I think a lot of what Jen and I seek to create is this return to the essential geniuses inherent in us as feminine beings, to create a world that celebrates that educates on that, women teaching other women, supporting other women, witnessing other women, because our own growth unfolds partly through what we do, but really as women in particular, a lot through what we witness in other women. And so creating an environment that you can experiment and you can play and you can fall apart and be a wreck. You can really bring it all here. And I think for us, it's a combination of wanting to bring that to other women and really, really wanting that for ourselves. And it creates this, beautiful shared mission. So I kind of changed up my whole life. I still do some, kind of business work on the side. But helping women awaken sensually and emotionally and find the power and the genius and to trust that and to attract the best from their partner and build really turned on relationships. That is what I now really devote my personal practice and my time to. So it's lovely to be here and bring this to your audience as well.
You're so amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely.
I wanted to share, Brandy, my relationship with my body and my health through this practice. And I feel like any sort of feminine movement practice for women where they get in touch with their bodies, whether that's through meditation or any sort of movement that awakens their bodies' just innate pleasure and their senses. We are meant to be sensory beings. So for me, this movement practice led into tapping into more of my senses, and my relationship with food was hugely tied in. And so I love the work that you do and how much you promote health for women. And so I just wanted to share how when I started to get to know my body, I'd always had a very indulgent, like I always needed sweets. I always needed desserts. I would order chocolate ice cream and need more. I was living in New York City and I totally did that like 3 a.m. warm cookie delivery service. Like totally I think it's called insomnia cookies. Like I was that woman ordering the warm cookies and then like calling my friend the next morning being like, oh, I can't believe I did that. Like there's the cookie box, like the morning after guilt that comes with it, like totally shocked that I did that. But I didn't understand that's because part of my erotic body is insatiable. My erotic body is indulgent. When I am experiencing pleasure through touch, through sound, through taste, I cannot get enough. And that for me was a huge awakening of there is this lust-filled body that I'm living in that was shaming myself and didn't understand how to live healthfully with this indulgent side. So it took this connection to then discovering, wait a second, if I want to indulge, I now know what feels good in my body and what doesn't versus just numbing out like I used to. I used to I would eat the most disgusting crap at work, before I would go back into court just because I needed 10 Cadbury cream eggs or something just to feel better. And then I would tune out to what that did to my body, what that did to my digestion, what that did to my sleep. I completely disconnected. I found this movement practice and that shifted everything. And so just encouraging, anyone listening to this to really ask what is serving your body at this moment in your life. And if you don't feel at home in your body or that you are treating her like the goddess she should be, how can you make some changes to do that? Whether it's exploring other different dietary options. It took me a while to realize okay, do I want to be vegetarian? Do I want to go off dairy? For me, sugar was the biggest shift. Biggest. I discovered when I dropped sugar out of my life, everything about my body and my health and my energy changed. And so now I live understanding that. So if I want to go into more natural sugars, I know what that does. I know how that adds some weight and some meat to my body versus if I go off all sugars, then I get much thinner. And there's not a good or a bad. It's just I'm aware of what feeds me physically and emotionally now with food and just how that ties together. So I love the work you do. And
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, you two don't really know my backstory, but I had... I did read it. Did you? Oh, okay. So you saw the pictures. Yes, you saw the pictures. So I was 12 sizes bigger than I am now. And I had obsessive compulsive disorder with food. So I get that 3 a.m. cookie run, although I'm so grateful I didn't live there. And I had bipolar manic depression since I was 14 years old. I had to be medicated for it. I had chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. Life was a freaking mess. Getting out of bed was fucking hard. Seriously bad. So I wanted to die. I get being there. And this is my listeners. I know that a lot of the people out there are struggling with these same kind of things, even though you may not have bipolar manic depression. Who's been depressed ever thought, is this worth it? You know what I mean? And so just sharing that story helps people understand, yes, there is a way out. And that's just my total mission in life is to help people know that they do not have to continue to suffer. And it can be really fun to uncover it, uncover the health. So yeah, thank you for your service, ladies. And you've read the story, but just so you know, I haven't been on medication in 19 or 20 years now.
Yeah. I wish I had found this back then, but obviously it wasn't the right time. For me, it was yoga and meditation, and the work that I do with my patients now have just like assisted me in overcoming that. But it doesn't matter the path, right? You can go get acupuncture, you can go get massage, you can come to sensual dance, you can go take Tai Chi, you can do anything to move yourself up a level. So I really, appreciate your work for being able to take me up a level. So one of the things that I'm curious about is if you could maybe expand on what it means to reclaim our feminine wholeness.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a rich topic and is so universal. So everyone has their own unique life story as a woman. Some people had significant health issues to deal with, other people didn't. One thing that is absolutely universal, there is no woman who doesn't become an adult who hasn't at some point received some kind of negative attention for being female. Now, it could be something very traumatic. Someone took the innocence of femininity away from her when she was a little girl, or something really awful. But it could be even things that are far more minor, but they still impact us. Being teased for being flat-chested or having large breasts, or being rejected by a boy. There are just getting catcalled on the street. There are so many little and big experiences and they chip away at us as females. We start, our teacher, Sheila, she kind of describes it as like you start as a whole circle, and then part of it is chipped away. It's like there's a piece of your wholeness that gets taken away because you're a girl, you're a woman. And so when those parts are rejected or feel like they cause you pain or put you at risk, we tend to disown them or suppress them or cover them up. So one of the things that is just incredible about this movement, when I found it for myself, and every woman who walks through the door has her version of this, I was taking class in LA, and so there were models, there were actresses in there were very, very physically attractive women in there. And there were all kinds of other women. There were women who were older, there were women who were heavier, whatever. And witnessing these women who were like these Latin women in their 50s who were super voluptuous and just owned their bodies, that was so inspiring to me, much more than watching someone who was thinner or more of a stereotype, but like not comfortable in their skin. And so this reclamation of the juiciness of being feminine, the curves, we really encourage women to make their curves as big as they can. You kind of come through these classes and everyone wishes they were more voluptuous. Like you see these and I'm a curvy, I have some curves going on for sure, but we get girls coming through here and it's just like, I want that kind of booty or that kind of belly or whatever. 'Cause I don't have that. And I think there's something about this reclamation process, whatever body you have, and whatever kind of feminine energy you have. Jen talked about her erotic energy having this insatiability, this indulgent quality. Those are particular flavors of feminine energy that she probably received some kind of either negative attention for, or was told they were bad or wrong, or she decided they were for whatever reasons, because we do that to ourselves. And so there's this reclamation of all of that. I was like really a good girl, and I, grew up really kind of walking a very, a path of accomplishment and achievement and award winning and blah, blah, blah. And so there's this freaking shredded, wild, ecstatic side of me, or shredded, dark side of me that I know is in there. And it's like the reclamation, because I disowned that part of myself a long time ago. And, you come into this world and you start to become aware of these missing parts and reclaim them for yourself. I know, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, Allie, that was so beautiful. For me, the reclamation has really lived in the senses, going back and reclaiming my senses. And I feel like that is something that is innate to women. You know, we're meant to have more of a diffuse awareness. We're meant to be handling, multitasking so many things at once, and feeling so many different things at once, and intuiting. And, you know, we hear the cry of our baby and our body does something. You know, we feel the needs of our moms and our sisters and our friends and our husbands and partners. And, you know, we can be balancing a high-powered career as well as thinking about what we want to eat or do for dinner or anything. So for me, it was going back into the sense of touch. What do I want from touch? And that started with me needing more massage. Sense of smell and taste were also inextricably linked to just feeling pleasure and feeling my body. Seeing beauty in the world was huge. Seeing beauty and then feeling more beautiful and starting to share that with women instead of judging other women for living in that radiance, living in their power, you know, walking those New York City streets with breasts out and bodies open and powerful, not buttoned up or covered up or hidden. Really celebrating that and being like, wow, you look amazing. And you're taking up everyone's attention in the room. And that's incredible. Like, you go, you're inspiring me. You know, and to say that, you know, to see beauty, we have one student who comes who is legally blind. And so she sees through her hands and through her body. So, you know, sight can be many different forms of how you feel around and what you experience in the world. I think I'm missing a sense. Sight, touch, sound. Music has always been a part of my life. My body has always reacted to music very strongly. A feminine movement practice heightened that, where now my body immediately reacts to a song before my brain even knows what it is. And that's truth for me of, oh my God, my body jumps to turn up a song in the car and I don't know the name of it. You know, I can't actually identify who's singing it, but my body reacts. Same way I now shop for clothing through touch. What does this feel like on my body versus what does this look like? And so it's that constant balance. But so I would recommend for reclamation, sensory exploration.
Love it. I love that.
Sorry, just going to say one more thing on the sensory side. Our classes, we deliberately have the lights very low and we have no mirrors for the purpose of heightening this sensory experience. So again, if anyone wants to try this at home, the sensory exploration is greatly aided by taking the lights down, maybe putting on a blindfold, definitely being in a room that does not have a mirror. All of our senses get heightened when other senses, if you take away the sense of sight or if you take away light in particular, we find that makes a really big difference for how much more a touch can provide in the way of stimulation and information.
Yeah, I love the lighting. It makes it safe too. You know, you're not like, stark white, you know, in the light. So yeah. And then I appreciate also the diversity in the music. Yeah. So it's really cool to feel that. And then that's kind of like putting my pants on, as I was saying earlier, you know, putting my pants on and feeling how good that felt to put my pants on, or feels to put my pants on when I'm practicing, you know. So for, you know, as you know, I started this, like I was saying, back in October when I started this podcast. And at that point in time, I took some temporary work and worked really hard on building my business. Like I just did this really huge push, and I had to say no to everything, you know, and I said no to this. And so I was like, wow, when I came back, because I was always waiting to come back, but I just kind of got into my masculine, like very strongly into my masculine. And then I'm like doing all my stuff. Time is up. I'm like, yep, March is here. I'm back. You know, I'd planned that. And the first day I came into class, I was watching all these beautiful women dance, and I felt nothing. I had no feeling. As a matter of fact, I'm going to cry right now thinking about it. It's like, whatever. Oh, my God. I'm so out of touch with myself that I can't be happy, turned on, elated, joyful, in awe of this beauty in front of me right now. What has my life come to, you know? Wow. Yeah, it's a really big day for me. I was like, okay, things are going to change around here, you know? And so now I've been, you know, today was just exquisite, you know, because I'm starting to get back into the pattern, into the routine, and feeling in that place of allowing myself to be in the feminine, because I do masculine really well, and feminine never was accessible to me, or it wasn't okay to be. It wasn't okay to be. And so I just denied it so much, you know, and this like reawakens that, the truth of who I am, the true authenticity of being a woman, right? Like being in that like being in your vagina, like being everywhere in your body and owning it and letting it be what it is and radiating that out to the world in your unique brilliance, however that looks, even if it's in anger or sadness. And that's the other thing I love about the dynamic here is that it's come as you are and it's all okay, and be all of it. And I was thinking about that since I saw you last time, a couple of days ago. I was like, okay, I can do anything and it's all okay. And when you finally like land that, and I'm sure I'm only like on the top level of that.
It never stops evolving.
Right?
I'm 10 years in, it doesn't stop evolving.
Yeah, it's like, oh.
Actually, I'm more than that. I'm 12 years in.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
It's still evolving.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah, right. It's like it's an infinite practice where we get to keep evolving our own beingness in the world and how we show up and how we love, not just love others, but love ourselves and love life. Oh my goodness. Well, is there anything else you'd like to chat about?
I want to honor you, Brandy, and for your listeners out there. It's easy for us, and I did this too, what I find has enabled me to have a consciously created life that I absolutely cherish, that is better than anything I could have ever dreamed up or described if I had journaled about it. Having capability in your masculine and in your feminine, because I do work with a lot of women who think it's all about being in their feminine all the time. And so I just want to honor the part of you that was able to create a structure for yourself, was go in, do the work you needed to do to take care of yourself, know that you were going to come back at this time. You never fell out of communication with us. And then you created that for yourself. I mean, I just want to acknowledge that part. It's not better or worse, but I think we're all better off having all of our capabilities available. And then we can consciously choose, yes, the capability to go into our feminine. If we don't use it, it can feel more distant and hard to get there. And that's very sad. And keeping it alive and coming to practice regularly or practicing at home, we're huge fans of that. But I do want to honor the part of you that is also able to create a timeline for yourself and create structure for yourself. I work on practices where we use our own sacred masculine to hold a container for our sacred feminine. Because if it was only in the feminine, I'd never get to class, I'd never have a business, I'd just flow with the moment and I'd be in all my feelings and my emotions. But I wouldn't have this dance gap tribe, this amazing tribe, if I was only in my feminine. So it's both, I think, are important, and I really want to honor the capability you create in both.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, and it's finding balance, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I told you this before. I'm a 100%er. I'm 100% in. Yeah. No matter what I'm doing, I'm 100% in or I'm 100% out, because I can't just dip my toe in it. And insatiability, that's probably, I think Jen and I have a lot of matching pictures in that way, because it drives me nuts to not be able to actually have it all. Yeah. So it's okay, but then that causes me to do extreme things, and then I'm like, oh, I'm missing out on this over here. Yeah. So it's finding that balance, right? Can I do a little bit of both? Yeah.
So speaking of balance, there's one other thing I want to leave your listeners with. I don't know exactly how much time we have. The balance between sensuality and sexuality for ourselves and for a partner. So the work that we do here, it really serves both. But one of the things that we hold extremely sacred is that the sensuality and sexuality that you explore is really for you. So one of the other pieces of that sort of feminine wholeness and integration, most of the time women come in and they've kind of gone one of two paths. They've either repressed their sexuality to some extent, maybe their cultural upbringing or bad experiences or just whatever they believe has led them to shut down some of that about themselves. Or they're very seemingly comfortable with their sexuality. They're very expressed with it, but it's really been other focused. It's really been because they saw that in magazines or movies and they modeled themselves on that and they became that way of being in the world. And so what we really invite in here is this shedding of setting aside of whatever you decided before and almost starting over, starting fresh, starting blank slate, everything welcome, like you said. What actually turns you on the most? What actually brings you the most pleasure through music, through touch, through clothing, and movement? And then over time, fully empower your choice to share that with someone else or not. And some of the women who come here don't dance, even if they have a partner, they don't dance for them for years. Some people run right home and show their partner right away. Yeah, I mean, I love to dance for my partner. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. The one thing I will say is to really trust that even if you don't share this explicitly, you find this kind of sensual awakening. Even if you don't say, hey, I want to dance for you to your partner, to really trust all relationships get better. You are, by reclaiming these parts of yourself and touching and awakening all of this, your senses and your sensuality, you are naturally more magnetic, more attractive, more turned on, more satisfied in life. So even if you do go to a partner with a need or a request, it's not from that same depleted place. You no longer need someone else to turn you on or awaken you. You have that capacity yourself. Now, of course, you want all kinds of things from a partner. It's not that they don't play a role, but the ability to turn ourselves on, to find it in ourselves, to know what gives us pleasure, is to me one of like my favorite skills. And so I really refer to it as a skill. It's a cultivated capability. And, now I can do it in so many different emotions and just so many different kinds of music. But at first it's just about finding what's the first one for you. What's the entry door for you? And then you can spend years and years and years, expanding and cultivating. So I did want to just add that about the relationship side of things, because I think people can come in here wanting it, that the sexuality has gone out of my relationship, or I feel dead, or I love my partner, I want them, but I just can't find my turn on in my body, or I don't have a partner. How do I find turn on and sensual pleasure when I'm alone? And so no matter what state you are coming into the room with, there's no one who doesn't get a much fuller, richer, empowering sense of their own sensuality and turn on, even if it's just for you. And we love it being just for you, or just for the other women who you share the dance class with. It becomes like just an incredibly sacred, intimate, fun, naughty space to share and witness and let you feed other women and they feed you. And it's just a beautiful symbiotic process.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. And I'm curious, can you expand a little bit on how that may relate to relationships as an eternal date?
Yes. So one of my favorite teachers is a guy who practices out in San Francisco named Erwan Devon. And he has created kind of a framework for relationship, a 3-stage framework. The first part is new and exciting. This is when you're just dating. And you're dating lots of people, and there's certain skills. I won't go through his whole framework, although I highly recommend his work. The second stage is best friends and lovers, and that is when you decide to go exclusive with someone. His strong recommendation is that people spend a lot more time in new and exciting before they go to best friends and lovers, that you really know that you want to be exclusive with that person before you go there. And there's certain, again, skills that are appropriate to that stage, and we could probably have a whole nother discussion, so I'm not going to get into it. The third stage is what he calls an eternal date, and it's marriage or long-term committed partnership. And it's when you've decided that this is my long-term person. But the distinction eternal date that he believes in, and that my husband and I have studied and now live and practice, is living, we're married, but even if you weren't married, living it like it's a date, the whole thing. So the turn on, I'm more attracted. I've been married for 13 years. I'm more attracted to my husband now than I was in the beginning. I am more committed to this relationship. I have fewer questions. And this is my second marriage. I had a short starter marriage in my 20s. And in that case, I was, super, I had no questions. I was super attracted, so much chemistry, but we didn't do the lifestyle design. And then a few years in, you end up in that situation of like, what happened? Like, it wasn't that we weren't attracted to each other, but it was one of those things which a lot of people experience where the peak is so high in the beginning. And then a couple of years go by and it's not feeling as high as it did in the beginning, and you think something's wrong. In that particular case, we'd only been together a few years, and we chose to separate. It was, peaceful and all. With my husband now having this whole new skill set, even just the possibility of an eternal date. Like, to me, all this common knowledge that's out there, these beliefs, like chemistry goes down over time and these other things, that is all bullshit. It is not how it has to go. Now, it's the natural way it goes if you don't work at things. If you don't, it's the common way. Yes, that's a good point. It's actually not the natural way. It's the common way, and we let it happen. But things like this and these other teachers that we've been talking about on here, these practices exist to enable you to find the turn on, to actually get all the benefits of a long-term partnership, the intimacy, the safety. I can actually have much deeper chemistry with my long-term partner because I feel so safe and I trust him so much. So I'm actually able, a lot of what causes chemistry is newness, unfamiliarity. So we get those sparks with someone because we don't know them yet, and we're like, wow, the unknown of it. So then you get to know someone really well, and that kind of spark isn't there as much, but you can find another kind of spark. It's more of a generated spark, but you need to be willing to be experimental and creative and try stuff. And I would be afraid to try that with someone who I didn't know so well. But with a long-term partnership, you can bring this constant learning because you've settled a lot of the big questions, and if you're both on a personal growth path, to me, the degree of intimacy and divine, sacred sexual connection that you can uncover is actually much deeper. So eternal date, this idea that what if we always, and it's not like it's every minute of every day, but the arc of our relationship is an arc of what the best dates are.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I know I went to, Roger and I actually joined you in a class that was where we did some partner work, and that was just really cool. I was excited to go back to another one of those classes, but the timing's been off, but yeah, awesome. Well, do you feel complete? Yeah, me too.
Beautiful.
Do you have, would you like to leave your website and let people know how they can contact you?
Yeah. If anyone wants to learn more about our movement, our website is Sensually Embodied, all one word, .com. And there's more information on there. You can reach out to us. If you're coming through Colorado, we would love to see you for a class, or maybe we'd pull a class together for Brandy's people. We just really want to bring this movement and touch as many people as we can. If you live in California or New York, S Factor, which is the Sheila Kelly studio, they have locations in Northern and Southern California and New York. sfactor.com. There's also other licensed teachers like Jen and myself in a few other states and cities. I don't know exactly what they all are, but on the S Factor website, you can find that out as well if you want to take an in-person class. We're also here available for, if anyone wanted some kind of coaching or virtual learning, we are available for that as well. So you can get all our contact information on sensuallyembodied.com. And we'd love to meet you guys in the studio.
Awesome. And I'll make sure that those links are in the show notes as well. Yeah. And I usually I always ask one last question, and I don't even think I need to, ladies. Do you think I need to ask her this question? I know I don't need to ask her this question. But the question is, what is it that you do to turn yourself on? But we already know. Yeah, we already know. Yes. And ladies, I just want you to know I'm really looking forward to putting together a retreat where these two ladies come and share with you their brilliance and help you awaken to something greater. So thank you so much for being here. And ladies, do whatever it takes. to turn your soul on.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Turn Your Soul On Radio. Go ahead and subscribe below. And if you feel it's worthy of a 5-star review, I'd greatly appreciate your support in this way. If you'd like to go deeper with me, you're welcome to join our private Facebook group, Turn Your Soul On, or take it to a whole nother level and apply for my 4-month Turn Your Soul On Masterclass. You're welcome to do this at drbrandyvictory.com. Whatever you do, turn your soul on.
This podcast is for information purposes only. Dr. Brandy Victory is not a medical doctor, and the views and statements expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Dr. Brandy Victory and the producers, disclaim responsibility from any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.